Hi there, I'm Hannah. Some of you may know me as Mrs. Kemp's daughter, and I am a scientist. I'm about to do my 4th year at the University of Bristol.
Arr, Bristol, home of the pirates!
And I'm so excited. Lots of learning has been online for me too, so I can't wait to get back in the labs, do things hands-on, and see all my course mates again. It's Careers Week at your school, and I'm going to talk to you about a job that many of you won't have heard of. I'm studying paleontology.
So does anyone know what paleontology means? Now if you think you know, maybe shout out some ideas to your teacher, maybe some keywords that come to mind when you think of paleontology. Okay, paleontology is the study of dinosaurs. Well, not just dinosaurs. We study things that are really old. But not that sort of old. No, I'm talking about prehistoric creatures that used to roam the planet long, long ago. So here's some pictures of some fun creatures that aren't dinosaurs and some plants that have existed years and years in the past that aren't around anymore. So how do we study these animals? Well, paleontologists find fossils and we use them to learn about what life was like in the past. So take a second and have a think about what a fossil is. Have you got any ideas about what a fossil is? So fossils are remains of living things, but they got trapped underground and over millions of years turned into rock. And then years later these rocks reach the surface and we find them. And so these fossils could be the bones of animals, but they could also be shells and plants and feathers and footprints and even poop. So on the screen this is what we think these creatures looked like, and then here are the fossils that we used to figure that out.
What kind of things do we learn from fossils? Well, we can figure out quite a lot about animals from fossils, such as what they looked like, what they ate, how long they lived, how they moved about, what living things they're related to, and how they died. We have to use fossils to learn about prehistoric animals, as they're extinct, which means they've all died and there aren't any living ones around anymore. What fossils have you seen?
So this is one of my favourite fossils that I found on a field trip. Now I know this just looks like some dots in a rock, but here's another picture of it. There's 2 of these lines, and these are actually footprints. And these are footprints of a millipede, but not a normal sized millipede, a massive ancient millipede called Arthropleura. So here's a picture of what it looked like compared to a person. So this was a massive millipede, and this would have walked down here millions of years ago. So this is the left and right side feet, and so the width of this is how wide this millipede would have been. And we can use the distance between the footprints to work out how fast it would have walked. And so it may have gone something like this.
So some of the biggest fossils I find are in museums. So here I am in the Bristol Museum and Art Gallery, where they have a whole exhibition on dinosaurs and marine sea creatures.
So what kind of things do I actually do at university? Well, lots of it is lectures. So we go into a lecture hall and they teach us about life in the past, but we also do lots of practical hands-on things. So in geology, here's me looking at a rock, and here's me looking at it up close under a microscope where I can see all the crystals inside. In biology, we look at live animals a lot. So we went to the zoo, and here's me looking at the lemurs. They were very cute, they were hugging. And using a microscope here to see a smaller centipede up close. We also get to look at dead animals and cut them up and dissect them to see their insides, which can be pretty gross. We do lots of geography, like mapping. So here's me drawing a map, and here's us using maps to try and find things around Bristol. And of course I get to look at fossils. So here's a fossil that we have in the Earth Science department. It's a saber-toothed tiger, and you can see the big fangs there. And although the fossils may be old, the science is not. So we do lots of computer work now, we keep it all very updated. On the right you can see code that I've done there. So I've had to do computer coding to figure out how to make the right graphs that I need. And on the left here is a Plateosaurus skull that we've got on the computer. So that was a physical fossil that's been found, and it's been scanned. A 3D model of it has been put on the computer. and then we figured out where the muscles in the skull would have been. So they didn't preserve, but we figured out where they would be, and we put them into the computer, and we can use that to do lots of calculations about how strong the skull was. So we can do things like calculate how strong the bite would have been of a dinosaur. And so here's some of the work that I produced at uni. Lots of it is doing work yourself, doing your own work after you've been taught things. So I have to do lots and lots of reading, and then lots and lots of writing. So I've drawn maps, I've drawn skulls and fish fossils, I've made confusing graphs and cross sections, and I've written lots of essays, and I've done lots of exams. And if you're year 6 especially, shout a big boo for exams because they suck. And of course, a big part of my course is getting to go on field trips, going outside to fun places and finding fossils ourselves to look at. So we've been to the Isle of Arran, we've travelled by boat, we've travelled by coach, we find ourselves on cliffs and in caves and looking at weird and wonderful fossils all around the UK and the world.
Hey guys, and welcome to What's in My Bag, field trip edition. Well, first of all, you got to look the part. Here we have a hard hat. Very tough. Now, when we're finding fossils, we're often near cliff faces, and so rocks can fall down, so you want to make sure you're protected. More clothing. It's going to be any kind of element out there. You want to make sure you got your waterproofs. You want to make sure you're visible to other people with you, in case you get in trouble, and they know that you're part of the group looking for fossils, and not someone else. We also have, to get the fossils out of the rocks, a trusty hammer. Sometimes we need to hit the rocks to break them open to get things out. It's very cool, but you want to be careful again. You don't want bits of rock flying in your eye, and that's why you also have goggles to protect your eyes from any bits of flying rock as you hammer into them. This came along as well. We've got a little pouch here which has a tiny little magnifying glass in it. We can use that to look up close at the fossils, at the really small ones. We also have our compass clinometer. So we want to make sure we're not getting lost because we might be in the middle of nowhere amongst some rocks, so we can use this to see where's north, where's south. And we can also measure the angles of rocks, which way they're tilting. And a lovely mirror. Oh yes, looking lovely. We have our acid bottle. Now it's very light acid, don't worry, it won't hurt you, but we can put this on rocks to try and work out what type of rock it is, because the acid reacts to certain chemicals in certain rocks. So if it fizzes, we're like, limestone. I have, of course, my trusty field notebook, so I can actually make notes when I'm there about what I'm seeing. And finally, to complete any field trip gear, you need a friendly stegosaurus for company. What is the biggest achievement in paleontology? Well, depends who you ask. Years ago, we made 2 very big discoveries that has helped us learn lots and lots since then. One is that the Earth is really old. So in the past, we didn't know how old the planet was. We were maybe hundreds of years old, maybe thousands. But fossils helped us figure it out. We kept finding lots and lots of them, and people realised that lots of time would have to have passed for all these animals to have existed on the planet. Now we know that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. The other thing is evolution. All life on Earth came from one tiny little thing years and years ago. And fossils show us how we got from early life in the past all the way to the different animals and plants, the diversity of life that we see today. My favourite recent achievement is about dinosaurs. So we now know that birds come from dinosaurs. And some dinosaurs had feathers. And we can actually look at the fossils of these feathers and figure out what colour they would have been. So we actually know the colours of some dinosaurs. You could be a researcher, finding out more cool facts and writing papers about them. This could involve going on trips to find fossils, working in a lab, or doing computer work. We find new fossils all the time. Do we know how many species of dinosaurs there are? There's currently over 1,000 named species of dinosaur, but we don't have them all. We're still finding 59 new dinosaur species every year.
Recently, we've been finding loads of dinosaur fossils in China, like this one here. It's a dinosaur that had feathers and wings like a bat.
You could get a job teaching others about paleontology, whether that's as a teacher, working in a museum, making documentaries, writing articles or books, or even doing short talks like what I'm doing right now. The whole point is to make science education interesting and, most importantly, fun.
Hey, kids, you want to learn about pterosaurs? Oh no, don't cry. Why are you running away?
How do we know dinosaurs roared? We don't actually know that dinosaurs roared. Lots of things we see on TV about dinosaurs are made for fun. They may not actually be true. So how could we know what they sound like? We don't have fossil sound. Well, there's actually a few ways we can have a good guess. One is to look at living relatives of dinosaurs, birds and crocodiles, and they don't roar. Another way is to look at the skull and figure out where we think their face and neck muscles would have been. Then we can calculate what kinds of sounds those throat muscles could make. Dinosaurs probably didn't roar, but maybe they growled or even quacked.
Paleontology is also useful in comparing the past and the present, for example with climate change and how it's affecting our planet today. We can use small ocean fossils to measure what climate change was like in the past, and then we can predict how climate change will affect the planet and life on Earth today. Paleontologists can also study why animals went extinct. Sometimes it was volcanoes, or they ran out of food, or something bigger appeared and ate them all. Many animals today are going extinct because of humans, whether we hunt them for food, like Stella's sea cow or the dodo, or we're cutting down the rainforests where they live, or because of pollution and global warming. As many of you will already know, the dinosaurs went extinct after a massive asteroid hit the planet. Well, most of them went extinct. Ah! A massive dinosaur! Oh wait, it's a small dinosaur. I'm not falling for it again. You're just another small dinosaur. Hang on, no you're not. Ah!